My name is Mark, and I never thought I would find myself in this position. I'm a regular guy, 35 years old, living in a small suburban town. I work as an IT consultant, a job that keeps me busy but allows me to come home to my wife, Lily, every evening. Lily and I met in college, and after a whirlwind romance, we decided to tie the knot. We were that couple everyone envied, successful, happy, and deeply in love. Or so I thought. Lily is beautiful, with long flowing hair and an infectious laugh. She has a warmth that draws people in, which is probably why she found herself mingling with a certain TikTok influencer named Jake. Jake was everything I wasn't: charming, spontaneous, and with a following that reached millions. He was the kind of guy who could turn a mundane moment into a viral sensation. I'd seen his videos, his goofy dances, his flashy lifestyle. He was a master at capturing attention, and I always thought it was harmless entertainment. Little did I know, he was capturing something far more precious. The day I discovered their affair was like a scene from a bad movie. I came home early from work, eager to surprise Lily with dinner. As I stepped through the door, I heard laughter, her laughter coming from the living room. I paused, my heart racing as I listened. It was a conversation that was too intimate, too filled with affection to be innocent. I crept closer, my pulse pounding in my ears. I peered around the corner and saw her, sitting on the couch, phone in hand, giggling at something Jake had said. It was a moment of clarity and confusion. My gut twisted. It felt like I was watching my life unravel in real time. I should have confronted her right then and there, but I couldn't. I felt paralyzed, a mix of shock and disbelief flooding my system. How could she? How could she betray the love we built over years for a guy whose entire existence revolved around a screen? I backed away, my heart heavy with betrayal. I needed time to process what I had seen, to understand the gravity of this moment. I spent the entire evening in a daze, replaying the scene in my mind. The laughter, the intimacy, the betrayal. It felt surreal, like a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. I couldn't confront her without proof. I needed to know more. The next few days were a blur of emotions. I felt anger bubbling beneath the surface, but more than that, I felt a profound sadness. Each time I looked at Lily, I saw the woman who had shared my life, but now I felt a stranger staring back at me. I started to piece together the fragments of our life. The late nights, the unexplained absences, the way her phone buzzed incessantly with notifications. Jake's name popped up more often than I cared to admit. I needed evidence. I had to uncover the truth. So I became a detective in my own home. I started snooping through her phone when she left for work. It felt wrong, but I was desperate. I needed to know if my suspicions were valid. I found messages, flirty exchanges that made my stomach churn. They were filled with emojis and inside jokes that only lovers would understand. Each message was a dagger twisting deeper into my heart. As I scrolled through their conversations, I felt an overwhelming urge to confront her. But I knew I had to be strategic. I couldn't just accuse her without solid proof. I needed to gather everything I could: screenshots, timestamps, the works. My mind raced with thoughts of revenge. The idea of exposing Jake began to take root. He had taken something from me, and I wanted him to feel the weight of that betrayal. I spent hours reading through their exchanges, each line fueling my anger. I felt like a man possessed. My thoughts were consumed by images of Lily and Jake together, the laughter, the intimacy, everything I thought was ours. I was determined to make him pay for what he had done, for tearing apart the life we had built together. As I sat there, staring at the screen, I knew I was on the brink of something dark. I was no longer just a hurt husband. I was a man seeking vengeance. And I was ready to act. The days turned into a blur of anger and despair. I was trapped in a cycle of emotions that felt like a relentless storm. Each time I saw Lily, I couldn't shake the images of her with Jake from my mind. The laughter they shared, the intimacy that felt so foreign to me now, it all gnawed at my insides. I was angry not just at her but at him, this influencer who had so brazenly invaded our lives, who had turned my wife's affections into content for his followers. I spent hours dissecting their messages, trying to make sense of it all. There were late-night exchanges filled with playful banter, And then there were the more intimate ones, where they discussed dreams, hopes, and even secrets that she had never shared with me. Each notification on her phone sent a jolt of jealousy through me. Did she laugh at his jokes the same way she laughed at mine? Did she tell him things she had kept from me? The thought was unbearable. I knew I needed to confront her, but I wasn't ready. I wanted to expose Jake for what he was, a manipulative fraud who thrived on the vulnerability of others. I began to think of ways to gather more evidence, and that's when the idea struck me. If I could infiltrate his world, I could gather the ammunition I needed. I had seen enough of his videos to understand his persona, but I needed more than just a surface-level understanding. I needed to see how he operated, how he interacted with his fans, with women, and most importantly, how he interacted with my wife. I created a fake TikTok account, something generic and unassuming. I used a profile picture that didn't stand out and a username that wouldn't draw attention. My goal was simple: to observe. I began following Jake's account, watching his videos as they flooded my feed. I saw the way he played to the camera, the exaggerated expressions, the calculated charm. It was all a facade, and I was determined to peel back the layers. As I watched, I noticed the comments flooding in from his followers, gushing about how perfect he was, how relatable he seemed. It was sickening. I could see how easily he manipulated people's perceptions, how he crafted a narrative that put him on a pedestal. I started to think of ways to use this to my advantage. If I could expose him, if I could show his followers the truth, maybe that would hurt him as profoundly as he had hurt me. I began to interact with some of his followers under my fake account, posing as a fan who was curious about his life. I asked questions about his content, about his collaborations, and slowly I gathered insights into his world. He was all about the spectacle, always looking for the next big thing to keep his followers engaged. He thrived on attention, and I realized that I could use that to my advantage. But it wasn't enough to just gather information. I needed to find a way to leak the private messages between Jake and Lily. I started to think about how I could do that without exposing myself. I had to be careful. I couldn't let anyone know who I really was. I began to craft a plan, one that would require precision and a willingness to cross lines I never thought I would. The thought of revenge consumed me. I envisioned the fallout, the way his followers would react when they discovered the truth. I imagined the shock on their faces when they realized their beloved influencer was nothing more than a deceitful opportunist. I wanted to watch as he lost everything: his followers, his reputation, his livelihood. It felt like justice, a way to reclaim my power in a situation that had left me feeling utterly powerless. As I formulated my plan, I started collecting screenshots of their exchanges. I downloaded apps that allowed me to save messages without drawing attention. Each screenshot felt like a trophy, a piece of evidence that would help me in my quest for revenge. I labeled them carefully, organizing them by date and context. I was meticulous, knowing that I had to be ready for when the moment came. The emotional toll was immense. I felt like I was living a double life, pretending to be a supportive husband while plotting the downfall of the man who had taken my wife's heart. There were moments when guilt crept in, moments when I wondered if I was going too far. But then I would remember the laughter, the intimacy, and the betrayal. I steeled myself, convincing myself that this was the only way to reclaim my life. As I continued this covert operation, I noticed that Lily was becoming more distant. The late nights had turned into full-blown absences, with excuses that felt increasingly flimsy. Each time she came home, I felt a mix of anger and sadness. I wanted to confront her, to demand answers, but I held back. I was waiting for the right moment, the moment when I could lay everything bare and expose Jake for who he truly was. Every day felt like a countdown to something inevitable. I was ready to expose them both. I had the evidence, I had the motivation, and soon I would have my revenge. The planning phase of my revenge was both exhilarating and terrifying. I felt like a puppet master, pulling strings from behind the curtain, and it gave me a strange sense of power. But with that power came a heavy burden. I was constantly on edge, balancing my facade as a loving husband while my mind was consumed with thoughts of betrayal and retribution. I had gathered enough evidence to make my move. I had screenshots of the messages between Lily and Jake, each one a testament to their infidelity. I had saved their conversations about late-night meetups, shared jokes, and even intimate confessions that cut deep. I was ready to expose them, but I still needed a way to do it that would ensure maximum impact. I considered various platforms, social media, blogs, even anonymous forums where I could leak the information without revealing my identity. But I knew that nothing would hit harder than a direct attack. On Jake's carefully curated online persona, his followers adored him, and to see their beloved influencer brought down by scandal would be a spectacle they wouldn't forget. I decided to use his own platform against him. I could create a viral post that would make waves, one that would force his followers to question everything they thought they knew about him. I imagined the headlines: TikTok influencer caught cheating, exclusive messages leaked. The thought sent a thrill down my spine. It was the kind of story that would spread like wildfire. To set my plan in motion, I needed to create a fake account on a social media platform where I could share the evidence. I didn't want to use TikTok directly. I wanted to keep my distance from the chaos that would ensue. Instead, I turned to Twitter. It was a platform where news spread quickly, and I could hide behind a veil of anonymity. I crafted a new identity, a concerned follower who had stumbled upon some shocking messages between Jake and a married woman. I took my time with the creation of this account, ensuring that it looked legitimate. I used a profile picture of a generic silhouette and a username that hinted at my role as a whistleblower. I wanted to be credible, to draw people in so they would believe what I had to say. Once my account was set up, I began to draft the post. I carefully selected the most damning screenshots, the ones that would highlight the betrayal and the emotional weight of their exchanges. I wrote a brief but impactful narrative to accompany the images, framing it as a cautionary tale about the dangers of infidelity and the facade of social media personas. I wanted to evoke sympathy for my situation while simultaneously igniting outrage against Jake. Finally, the moment came. I hit post, and my heart raced as I watched the tweet go live. I had done it. I had taken the first step towards revenge. I felt a mix of exhilaration and fear, knowing that there was no turning back now. I watched as the notifications began to roll in. At first it was slow, but then the retweets and likes began to accumulate. People were engaging with the post, commenting with shock and disbelief. As the hours passed, it became clear that my carefully crafted plan was gaining traction. The post was spreading beyond my expectations. Comments poured in, some in disbelief, others in anger towards Jake. I felt a sense of satisfaction wash over me. It was working. I had set a fire in the influencer's carefully constructed world, and I was reveling in the chaos I had unleashed. I spent the night glued to my screen, refreshing the post and watching the reactions unfold. I could see that Jake's followers were starting to question him, to wonder if the persona he presented was a lie. I felt a rush of adrenaline. This was what I had wanted. I wanted him to feel the same heartbreak I felt, the same sense of betrayal that had shattered my world. But I also felt a pang of guilt. Was I going too far? I reminded myself that Jake had crossed a line, that he had taken my wife from me. He had to pay for his actions. I justified my actions by reminding myself that the truth needed to come out, that this was about exposing a betrayal that had affected not just me, but countless others who might fall victim to his charm. As the night wore on, I noticed that the post had caught the attention of some influencers within the same community. They began to amplify the message, sharing it with their followers. It was a whirlwind of activity, and I felt both exhilarated and terrified. The more attention it received, the more I realized that I was stepping into uncharted territory. I couldn't help but think about Lily. How would she react when she found out? Would she defend Jake? Would she confront me? The thought of her anger or disappointment filled me with dread. But I had to be strong. I had to see this through to the end. As dawn broke, I received a message from an unknown account. Did you really expose Jake? What's the story? My heart raced. I was in too deep now. I had to keep going to see this through. I replied, just the truth. Let's see how he handles it. I was ready for whatever came next, ready to face the fallout of my actions. I had set the wheels in motion and there was no turning back. The storm was brewing and I was at the center of it. The aftermath of my post was a whirlwind that spiraled out of my control. I had anticipated some backlash, but nothing could have prepared me for the sheer chaos that unfolded. As the sun rose higher in the sky, my phone buzzed incessantly with notifications. Retweets, comments, and direct messages flooded in. It felt surreal, like I was watching a train wreck in slow motion. The initial reactions ranged from disbelief to outrage. Is this real? How could he do this? What a scumbag. The comments piled up, and I watched as people began to dig deeper into Jake's past, unearthing old videos and posts that painted him in a questionable light. It was as if my single tweet had opened Pandora's box. But it wasn't just the followers who were reacting. Jake himself took notice. Within hours, he posted a response video on TikTok, attempting to dismiss the allegations with his trademark charm. "Hey guys, it's all a misunderstanding," he said, flashing his perfect smile. "Don't believe everything you read on the internet." He tried to downplay the situation, but I could see the cracks in his facade. The confidence in his voice wavered, and the comments section of his video was filled with skepticism. People were questioning him, demanding answers. As I watched his video, I felt a mix of satisfaction and anxiety. I had struck a nerve, but I also knew that he wouldn't go down without a fight. I prepared myself for the inevitable confrontation that was coming my way. I couldn't shake the feeling that he would retaliate, and I braced for the fallout. Then came the moment I had been both anticipating and dreading. Lily found out. She burst into the living room, her face pale and eyes wide. "What did you do?" she demanded, her voice shaky. The anger was palpable, and I could see the betrayal etched across her features. It was as if I had ripped the mask off her world, exposing the truth that she had been trying to hide. "I exposed Jake for what he is," I replied, my heart racing. "You think he cares about you? He's been using you to build his brand, and I couldn't just sit back and let it happen." Lily's expression shifted from anger to disbelief. "You don't understand. This is going to ruin everything. You don't know what you've done." Her voice cracked, and I could see the tears welling in her eyes. "Everything was already ruined when you chose him over me," I shot back, my anger bubbling to the surface. "You shared something special with him that you didn't share with me. This was the only way to make him feel the pain he caused." The argument escalated, each word cutting deeper than the last. I could see the hurt in her eyes, but I felt justified. I wanted her to see the truth, to recognize the man she had been so infatuated with was nothing more than a charlatan. I had hoped that by exposing him, she would come to her senses, but all it did was push us further apart. As the day wore on, the social media storm continued to brew. Jake's followers were split. Some defended him fiercely, while others began to question his integrity. I watched as influencers I had never even heard of started to comment on the situation, sharing their thoughts and opinions. It was a public spectacle, and I was at the center of it. But I also felt the weight of my actions pressing down on me. Was this really the right way to handle it? I had wanted revenge, but now I was beginning to see the consequences unfold in real time. I had exposed Jake, yes, but I had also exposed myself. The world now knew I was a man scorned, a husband who had taken drastic measures to reclaim his dignity. Later that evening, I received a message from an account that had been following the drama closely. "You've started something big. Are you ready for what's coming next?" The words sent a chill down my spine. I had stepped into a world of public scrutiny, and I could feel the stakes rising. While I was caught up in the whirlwind of social media, I also couldn't ignore the reality of my marriage. Lily and I were at a crossroads. The trust had been shattered, and I knew that even if I exposed Jake completely, it wouldn't fix what had been broken between us. I decided to reach out to her, hoping to find a way to bridge the growing chasm. "Lily, can we talk?" I asked, my voice softer than it had been during our argument. "I didn't mean for this to get out of hand. I just wanted you to see him for who he really is." She looked at me, her expression a mixture of hurt and frustration. You think you can just fix this with a tweet? You've made it worse, Mark. I know, I replied, feeling the weight of my actions. But I want to fix us too. We can't keep going like this. We need to talk about what happened and where we stand. Lily hesitated, her eyes filled with uncertainty. I don't know if I can look at you the same way after this. You've turned my life into a circus. I did it because I love you, I said, desperate for her to understand. I wanted to protect you from someone who doesn't care about you, but I see now that I've hurt you in ways I didn't intend. She turned away, wiping her tears. I need time, Mark. I don't know if I can forgive you for this. As she walked away, I felt the finality of her words settle in. I had taken a gamble with my actions, and now I was left with uncertainty. Had exposed Jake, but at what cost? The reality of my situation hit me hard. Revenge had come at a price, and I was beginning to realize that it might not be worth it. The storm was still brewing, but the chaos had shifted. It was no longer just about Jake. It was about us, our marriage, and the fragility of trust. I had ignited a fire, but now I was left to face the ashes. The days that followed my explosive revelation felt like a slow-motion train wreck. Social media had erupted, and I was caught in the eye of the storm. Jake's followers were in an uproar, and the comments section of my initial post was a battleground, filled with accusations, defenses, and a lot of back-and-forth drama. I watched as the chaos unfolded, feeling a mixture of satisfaction and regret. Jake's attempts to salvage his reputation only seemed to fuel the fire. He released a series of videos trying to downplay the situation, but the more he spoke, the more his followers began to question him. Why is he so defensive? What is he hiding? The tide was turning, and I knew I had struck a nerve, but despite the public spectacle, I felt increasingly isolated. Lily had retreated into herself. After our heated argument, she had stopped responding to my messages, and our once warm home felt cold and empty. I could feel the tension in the air, thick and suffocating. Each time I heard her moving around the house, I was reminded of the distance that had formed between us. The laughter that once filled our home was replaced with silence, and it was unbearable. I spent hours on social media, watching the situation unfold like a reality show. Influencers began to chime in, some supporting me, others defending Jake. It was a circus, and I was both the ringleader and a reluctant participant. I had wanted revenge, but now I was beginning to see the true cost of my actions. Every retweet, every comment, felt like a dagger driving deeper into my heart, reminding me of the woman I was losing. One evening, as I sat alone in our living room, I decided I couldn't wait any longer. I needed to reach out to Lily again, to try and bridge the gap that had formed between us. I sent her a simple message, hoping to break through the wall she had put up. "Can we talk, please? I miss you." After what felt like an eternity, she replied, "I don't know what to say, Mark. Everything feels so broken." I took a deep breath, my heart racing. "I understand, I messed up, but I did it because I care about you. I wanted to protect you from someone who doesn't deserve you." There was a long pause before she replied, "You think you can just fix this with words? You've made a spectacle of my life, of our life." "I know," I replied, desperate to convey my sincerity. "But I want to make it right. Please, let's talk face to face. I need to understand how you feel." After a few more exchanges, she reluctantly agreed to meet. "Fine, tomorrow evening, but I'm not promising anything." I spent the rest of the night anxiously preparing for our meeting. I replayed the conversation in my mind, trying to anticipate her feelings and responses. I knew I had hurt her deeply, but I hoped that beneath her anger was still the love we had shared. The next evening, I arrived home early, nervously packing the living room as I waited for her to come back. When she finally walked through the door, I could see the weight of the world in her eyes. She looked tired, worn down by the events of the past few days. "Hey," I said softly, trying to gauge her mood. "Hey," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. We sat down on opposite ends of the couch, the distance between us feeling like a chasm. I took a deep breath, searching for the right words. "I know things are tense right now. I just want to talk about everything that's happened." Lily looked at me, her eyes filled with hurt. "You think I can just forget about what you did? You put our lives on display for everyone to see. You didn't think about me at all." I thought I was protecting you, I replied, my voice shaky. I wanted to show you who Jake really is. I didn't want you to get hurt. But you hurt me, she snapped, tears welling up in her eyes. You've humiliated me. You've turned my life into public spectacle. I can't just brush that aside. I felt the weight of her words hit me like a ton of bricks. I know, and I'm so sorry. I was angry and hurt, and I acted out of desperation. But I love you, Lily. I don't want to lose you. Love isn't enough, Mark, she said, her voice trembling. You've broken my trust. I don't know if I can ever look at you the same way again. The pain in her voice cut through me, and I felt my heart shatter. I know I messed up. I just want a chance to make it right. We can work through this together. I believe we can. She looked away, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. I need time. I can't just forgive you overnight. I understand, I said, my voice low. But please just think about it. I want to be the husband you deserve. I want to earn back your trust. As the conversation continued, I could see the flicker of uncertainty in her eyes. She was torn between the love we had shared and the pain I had caused. I knew it would take time, but I was willing to fight for her, for us. But as we talked, I couldn't shake the feeling that the damage was done. The fallout from my actions had been severe, and I was left grappling with the consequences. I had exposed Jake, yes, but at what cost? I had put my marriage on the line, and I was beginning to wonder if I would be able to repair the rift I had created. The next morning, I woke up to a flurry of notifications on my phone. Jake had released another video, this time more aggressive in tone. He was attacking my character, trying to turn the narrative against me. This guy is just a bitter husband trying to ruin my life, he claimed, a smirk plastered on his face. Don't believe the lies. I felt the anger boil within me. He was trying to manipulate the situation, and I couldn't let him get away with it. I knew I had to respond, to defend myself and my actions. But as I prepared to craft a reply, I paused. Was this the path I wanted to take? Did I want to sink to his level? In that moment of reflection, I realized that I needed to rise above the chaos. I had exposed Jake, and now it was time to focus on healing my marriage. I put my phone down and turned my attention back to Lily. I would fight for us, no matter what it took. The days that followed were a roller coaster of emotions. I had opened Pandora's box, and now I was faced with the consequences of my actions. Jake's latest video was making waves, and he was rallying his followers, trying to paint me as the villain in this narrative. Just a jealous husband, he called me, attempting to diminish the validity of my claims. The backlash was swift, and I could feel the pressure mounting. But I also felt a shift within myself. I realized that while I had sought revenge, what I truly wanted was to heal my marriage. I had spent so much time focusing on Jake and the chaos he had caused that I had neglected the most important relationship in my life, my relationship with Lily. I had to take a step back from the public spectacle and focus on what mattered most. I reached out to Lily again, this time with a clearer mind. Can we talk? Just us, away from all this noise. I suggested, hoping to carve out a space where we could reconnect without the distractions of social media and the drama that had unfolded. She agreed, and we decided to take a walk in the nearby park, a place we had often visited during happier times. As we strolled along the path, I could feel the weight of our conversation lingering in the air. I wanted to bridge the gap, to show her that I was committed to rebuilding our relationship. Lily, I know I hurt you, and I can't take that back, I began, my voice steady. But I'm here, willing to do whatever it takes to make things right. I don't want to lose you over this. She looked at me, her expression softening slightly. It's hard for me to process everything, Mark. I feel so exposed, so betrayed. I thought I could trust you. I know, I replied, my heart aching. But I want to earn your trust back. I've realized that my actions were impulsive, driven by anger and hurt. I should have communicated my feelings instead of trying to take matters into my own hands. We walked in silence for a moment, the sound of rustling leaves and distant laughter surrounding us. I took a deep breath, trying to gather my thoughts. I want to focus on us now. I want to hear your feelings, your thoughts. How can we move forward together? Lily paused, her gaze fixed on the ground. I don't know if I can just forget what happened. It's going to take time for me to heal from this. I understand, I said gently. I'm not asking you to forget, I just want the chance to show you that I can be better. We can work through this together one step at a time. As we continued to walk, I could see the walls she had built beginning to crack. What if Jake decides to escalate things? What if he continues to attack you? She asked, her voice tinged with concern. I can handle him, I replied, my voice firm. I won't let him drag me down. I'll focus on us and our relationship. Noise from social media will fade, but our commitment to each other is what matters most. Lily nodded, and for the first time in days I felt a glimmer of hope. We spent the rest of the afternoon discussing our feelings, our fears, and our hopes for the future. It was cathartic, a much-needed conversation that reminded us of the love we had shared before this chaos erupted. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the park, I took her hand in mine. No matter what happens with Jake or the fallout from all of this, I want you to know that I'm in this for the long haul. You're my priority. She looked at me, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. I appreciate that, Mark. I really do. I just need time to process everything. I'll give you all the time you need, I promised. We'll take it one day at a time. The following weeks were challenging, but we worked together to rebuild the trust that had been shattered. I stayed away from social media, focusing on my marriage and supporting Lily through the emotional fallout. Jake's influence began to wane as the drama surrounding our situation faded from public consciousness. I learned to communicate better, to express my feelings without resorting to drastic measures. We attended couples therapy, where we explored the deeper issues in our relationship and learned how to navigate our challenges together. It was a slow process, but I could see the progress we were making, and it filled me with hope. Eventually, Jake's videos became less frequent, and his followers began to lose interest. The truth I had exposed had taken its toll, and he was no longer the golden boy of TikTok. I felt a sense of relief wash over me, knowing that I had stood up for myself and my marriage, but I also understood that the real victory was in the healing that had begun between Lily and me. One evening, as we sat together on the couch, I turned to her and said, "I'm really proud of us. We've come so far from where we were." She smiled, a genuine smile that lit up her face. "I am too, Mark. I never thought we could get through this, but here we are." We embraced, and in that moment, I felt a renewed sense of love and connection. The betrayal had changed us, but it didn't have to define us. We were stronger now, more resilient, and ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, together. As I reflected on the journey we had taken, I realized that while revenge had been a fleeting satisfaction, it was love and understanding that had ultimately brought us back together. I had learned that true strength lies not in retaliation but in the willingness to heal, to forgive, and to grow. I looked forward to the future with hope, knowing that we could weather any storm as long as we stood by each other's side. We had faced the darkness together and emerged into the light hand in hand. And as I sat there with Lily, I knew that our love was worth fighting for, no matter the challenges that lay ahead. The storm had passed, and now it was time to rebuild.